he is tenacious and he's going to get it done quickly. I remember taking the kids to the pool and he's up there in our hot little apartment, like just online the whole summer.
The point that was being made there was unless I wash your feet, you can have no part of me.
We had 4 kids, 4 little kids. There's no way we could have been working, helping out at church, doing all those things, and the kids, and going to college. Like, it was the biggest blessing. You have no idea how big of a blessing it was for our family.
I grew up with a family that was pretty poor. There were 7 kids. My dad was a landscaper and didn't have a lot of money growing up. And so we always had cousins living with us. Like, we had a 900 square foot house. We had 13 people living in it. Kind of a different background, I guess. Everybody in my family comes from hard stuff. I mean, I had a lot of people that are coming from jail, they're on parole, they're coming out of drugs. There's a lot of sexual abuse in my family line. I was molested when I was 5 by an older male cousin that wanted to teach me some stuff. But I now pastor a church here in the Austin, Texas area. There's nothing that I believe God can do. Like, when somebody walks in our doors, they already have a head start on me because I came in the backseat of somebody's car, passed out.
So I've known Andy since the 2nd grade. We actually went to the same small Christian school together, grew up together.
We became best friends in probably like 7th grade, 8th grade, and we stayed best friends. And she would date guys. I never really had girlfriends, but she would date guys, and they would always break up with her because she talked to me too much.
And we tried dating once in like the 8th grade. That was an utter disaster.
When I was 16, I went hunting with my dad and my brother. We were there maybe an hour, and I got shot through the stomach, out the back. The doctor's like, yeah, we don't know how you're still here.
And when I almost lost him, that's when my eyes were open to, whoa, what would life be like if I couldn't talk to him every night on the phone?
But I was in the hospital, my wife kept coming up and visiting. She wasn't my wife, she's my friend then, but she kept coming up over and over. It was about an hour drive, 45 minutes to an hour drive to get out there.
From there, he took me on a date.
Our first date was, I figured, like, I got one shot probably at doing this deal. So I was working at Taco Bell and I had saved up so much money. We're walking downtown Portland and we were there for like an hour or so and stuff. She's like, you don't have a plan, do you? Well, I was waiting for a limo that was supposed to show up and the guy was late. I said, do you want, let's go ride this limo. And she's like, oh, you're so stupid. The guy opens the door and he goes, Elliott's, ride for the Elliott's. And she looks at me and she's like, huh? They pull us on the thing and put us on the helicopter over the mountain, and it's sunsetting, so all the city lights are on. And they land us on top of the tallest building in downtown Portland, which there's a restaurant on the top floor. So we get done eating and she's like, okay, now how do we get back to your car? She's like, you didn't think about that, did you? So we go down the elevator to the bottom, and I had lined up for a horse carriage to be waiting at this place. And so literally a horse carriage picks us up.
He will tell you his side of the story for this date, is all the amazing things and all the money that he put in and all the things that he did for me. And it was very wonderful, and he did sweep me off my feet. But the date started when he picked me up. He had to drive out to the country to get me, picked me up, and I had a splitting headache. I was probably super stressed out about this date. So we stopped at a gas station, and he went in to buy me some aspirin. Before he got out of the car, he reaches over and he locks my door. And that is what stole my heart, even though we'd been best friends our whole lives.
So it's all been downhill since then, but that was our first date. I got married young, at 18, to my wife, who I knew since the 2nd grade. And so, but after that, I kind of lost my mind and I went totally away from the Lord. Got into all kinds of stuff. I almost lost my marriage. So I just had, my mind had just perversions and weirdness in it since I was little. And you start to get older and you realize, okay, a lot of this is wrong. And then it's like, well, I didn't make myself wrong. God must have made me wrong. Then that makes me angry at God. I just started turning to alcohol. That calmed me down. And so I would just wake up in the morning and start drinking, and go at night and start drinking. And
so I am very stubborn, and I was never going to just walk away no matter how bad it got. And he knew that.
My heart was far from the Lord, and I was just a lot of anger and just a lot of things going on in my life. And a friend of mine took me to a pastor's house at like 3 a.m, passed out drunk in the back of his car. And I just remember they got me to meet with one pastor, the associate pastor. I met with him 4 times. The 4th time, he just looks across the desk at me and he's like, you, sir, are an asshole. And so I said, okay. And he goes, I'll never meet with you again.
So when I became a mom, that's when kind of the final straw.
And my wife was getting ready to leave, and that was kind of like, the last-ditch effort type of thing. Well, they did one true last-ditch effort where they got all the pastors, all the counselors, and there was like probably 10 people there to like try to talk sense into me.
I knew Satan was against our marriage, but it wasn't God that was against it. And kept praying and not giving up and being really stubborn.
And I spent the whole hour or two just angry. I didn't like the Lord, I didn't like people, I didn't like my wife, I didn't like anybody. And one guy at the end, he said, would you do me a favor? Would you ask the Lord if there's anything that you've done wrong? So I started to pray that. I probably got 3 words out, and I just started bawling. And like the Lord just showed me, like, took a veil off, like it's me, I'm the problem. And I just felt this overwhelming sense that I am the issue, and I didn't know what to do about it. And at the same time, I could feel his love, like reaching into that, saying, you're the problem, but I'm going to help you out of here, if you'll let me. And I had already given my life to the Lord, but I felt the calling then, like he's calling me out of that into something else. And then it was just shortly after that, so I didn't know how to serve the Lord or anything. I just really knew that I wanted to, but I didn't have the good habits. I was a bad husband. I had a lot of anger, still addicted to alcohol, like a lot of things going on. And I had somebody that gave us a word, and they said, if you will just say yes to whatever God asks you to do, he's going to give you a heart for people. And they talked about us, pastoring a church in the future, that type of stuff. And I said, I'm in. Whatever it is, I'm in. But you'll have to give me a heart for people because I don't like people.
I remember a pastor saying to me, because I was very devastated, thinking, well, now we're never going to be able to do anything in ministry. We're never going to be able to help people. And he looked at me and he said, do you think that pastors have perfect lives? We all have stories. We were all broken. You're going to be able to help so many people with your stories.
And we didn't plant a church right out of really the deepest struggle of those things, because God took me through a process of when I had kind of given my life back to the Lord and he was doing his work in me. I had a desire to do the right thing now, but I had no skill in it. I had no, the desire was there, but my habits were still bad. Like if I had a problem, I still wanted to drink. If I had a problem, I had a lot of anger. I used to, I've broken doors down and cupboards off, ripped mirrors off of cars when we're driving.
And when people are repentive and they are changing and still might make some mistakes, but they are truly trying to change and turn their life around, not holding things over their head because that's what the enemy does. He's trying to hold things and guilt trip everybody, but that's not what God does. He paints a picture of your future and what you're going to be and how he's going to use you.
And thankfully, God put somebody in my life, a couple of people in my life that were willing to walk it out with me. And it was as simple as, hey, come over meet with me on Friday. We'll spend some time together. And I think we're going to go do something important. I get there and a guy would be like, all right, jump in my car. We got some errands to run. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why are you inviting me over to run errands with you? This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. And I would be getting angry because I had a lot of anger. So even though I was trying to do the right thing, now I'm getting angry. And riding around, I'm realizing over time, I'm riding with him so I can see what a normal person does. Like when he's at the hardware store and it's taking too long in line, he's talking to somebody and being kind to him. He's engaging somebody in a story. He's getting to know somebody. He's thanking the guy, like, hey, you guys must be really busy today. It looks like you're under a lot of stress. Can I pray for you? Like he's just being a good person. And I'm watching it and I'm like, so that's how that works. I don't even know how to do that.
The prayer and being on my knees, learning what I need to do to change, because he will tell this great story of how I'm amazing and it was all his fault, which it's always 2 people. I also didn't go around talking bad and complaining and ruining his character. People didn't know, not because I was trying to keep it a secret, but because I knew that this is not who I married and he is not going to stay this person.
Well, I still didn't know how to handle my emotions differently. That's a skill set, right, that you learn and grow. But I wanted to. And so when I started to do the wrong, I'm like, I don't want to do this, which goes back to Romans, right? The things I want to do, I don't do, and the things I don't want to do, I do, and who can save me from this body of death? I was living in that mode. And the next thing I knew, I was running a small group because somebody asked me if I'd take over their small group. So I took over their small group, and people would pull up to our house at 7 o'clock at night to come to the small group, and I would immediately go to our closet and go hide in there. And my wife would be like, what are you doing? We got people here. And I said, just entertain them until we're ready to start and I'll come out. And I would come out and start doing the meeting. As soon as the meeting was over, I'd have to go to the bathroom and I'd sneak back out and then I'd be gone until everybody left because I didn't want to talk to people. But you could just feel God saying, come and love people and help people. And so I was putting myself out there to the ability that I could, which wasn't very much ability. And slowly God just started growing my heart and like drawing me. When we were in Bend, we had always been in business. We'd done business for over 20 years, my wife and I. We had furniture stores, delis, coffee shops, a children's clothing store, different things. In Bend, we were there to help plant a church with a friend and a mentor of mine. We helped them plant a church. We were there for 5 years and built up the furniture stores as a way to make a living and had a couple stores going. And I got to the point where, we were actually doing really well. We had good money. We had people working for us. We didn't hardly ever have to work. We felt like it was time for us to move on, to plant a church. So I was actually on a prayer walk, just walking and praying. And I was like, Lord, if we went, like, who would even go? I just clearly felt the Lord just speak to me. And he just said, that he saw how we served and how we cared and how we loved. And he's the one that rewards. And if you go, I'm going to give back to you leaders that are faithful and loyal and that will walk with you. Where God was like, this is what I really want to do with you. I want to bless you here still, but if you really want to go on an adventure, let's go. And so we just said, okay, we're going. So we kind of made an announcement that we're going to go plant a church in Texas, sell all of our stuff, move across the country, plant a church, which is a big decision because we're selling our home, we're selling our businesses. I mean, it's all got to go. Within a couple of months of us saying that we were going to go, we had people calling us from 3 or 4 different states. They're like, we're going to sell our house, we're going to quit our job, we're moving to... And I'm like, okay. And people just started joining us. I made the move thinking, we sold our stores, we have the money, we'll move here, we'll start another store and use that store to fund our church. And within 6 months of being here and opening our store, this new store came into town that was like almost 500,000, 600,000 square feet in one store, all furniture, and just a few miles from us. And they flooded the whole area with ads, and they were having concerts, and they were having celebrities in, and our store just went ghost town. So I was in praying every night and just talking to the Lord. I'm like, Lord, what do you want us to do? Like, I need you to bless the store. We're here to make money. And very clearly, I was staying until 1, 2 in the morning just praying in the store waiting because we weren't selling anything. I had no way to pay bills. And God said, I'm closing the store. And I said, why would you close it? It's your money. We're going to use it for the kingdom. And he very clearly spoke to me about Moses. Bible says that he was raised in all the wisdom and the ways of Egypt. He knew how to get the water from the aqueducts. He could get the water with the sending servants and wagons, all these things. He had wisdom, but he said, when I called him to the desert to lead my people, he had to get water from a rock. All the people that had moved with us, all but one family was working for me at the store. So when I closed the store, I had to tell all the people that came to church plant with me, you don't have a job. I was driving Uber at night. I was working after school program for kids. And then also trying to plant the church and run the church. I was doing all 3 of those for about a year and a half. Part of the other way that we were making money was by selling our plasma. And then we're coming in on Sundays talking about how God is good, God blesses, God provides, God called us here. I believe the greatest miracle, by far, that's a supernatural miracle, is for people to love one another. Jesus said, by this they'll know you're my disciples. And he could have filled in the blank with anything. And his answer was that you love one another. Why? Because that is the greatest miracle. We have so many diversity of views and lifestyles and backgrounds in our church. We have people literally that have been sexually abused. We have people in our church that have records from being sexual abusers in our church. If that dissuades you from coming to our church, I'm sorry, but we have everything there. We have people with money. We have people with no money. We literally have people in our church that are at our service today that are living in their car. And we also have people that have multiple homes. We have all this people on the far right. We have some people on the far left, but we're all in the same building. How does that happen? Completely impossible outside of a miracle. And that miracle is Jesus.
Unless you allow Jesus to wash and clean and help you in the areas of your life that are coming into constant contact with the difficult circumstances of the journey of life, you won't be able to follow him.
God brought me back. All these things happened over the years. When I felt God call me to ministry, I felt this deep desire to get back in the Word at a deeper level, to have a better understanding of it, to be ready for, the future that God was calling us to. And I was looking at college and stuff. I'm like, there's just no way. I need to be able to do school when my kids are asleep. I need to be able to do school when I'm not doing a small group already for a church, or when I'm not, on the job. Like, I need to be able to fit school in around. And so I started looking, I found CLI, I got on, I started looking at it. I was looking at the cost, and I'm like, okay, the cost is free. I don't know if I can cut that, but we're looking at it, and that made me suspicious a little bit, because I'm like, it's free. I mean, come on, this ain't real. And I'm like, so I start looking at the classes, digging deeper. I'm like, no, these are real classes. Like, these are better. Many of them were far better than what I took even at a brick and mortar college that was far more expensive, because the classes are being taught by people that have walked it out. You know, like the Ministry of the Marketplace class being taught by somebody who's worked in the marketplace. You know, you guys have Dave Ramsey on there teaching classes, and Francis Chan on there. Larry Kreider, the church that I had been at, did all these small groups with Larry Kreider material, and he's on there teaching classes. Like, people who have experienced and walked these things out are actually teaching these classes. There's a guy on there, my favorite class, there's a guy on there that did on-site classes for Old and New Testament, and he does them overseas. I forget his name, but he did all these classes. He's walking through and he's like, hey, we're right here. This is where he parted the Red Sea. Hey, we're right here. This is where this happened. And he's talking it through. And what's so crazy about that, I tell people, because I probably have 15 or 20 people that are either in or going through CLI now, just because I talk to people about it. But I always tell them in this class, I said, the guy, when he started filming the classes, was like in his 40s. But when you take the whole Old Testament and you take the whole New Testament, by the time he's done, he's like in his 60s. Like, he literally ages on the videos, because he spent his whole life dedicated to that course. And so that's the quality of education you're getting. You're getting something where people are investing their life in it. And so I just enjoyed the classes.